The fall on Keltha's Ridge. The sky above Keltha Ridge burned with fire and smoke. Explosions shook the ground as alien and human forces fought side by side against the machines that ruled this broken world. The machines had no fear, no pain, and no mercy. Their goal was simple: destroy all life. Riva of the Corel species moved like a shadow through the chaos. Her tall, lean body was built for speed and power. Her armor was dark blue, shaped to match the curves of her body, but strong enough to stop a plasma blast. She led her squad across the ridge, her twin blades glowing bright in her hands. She was a warrior, proud and cold. Like all Corel, she believed in strength above all. If a soldier fell, they were forgotten. Weakness was worse than death. That was her way. The mission was simple: strike the machine bunker, plant the charge, and fall back. But nothing ever went as planned. A scream echoed through the dust. One of her squad mates went down, cut in half by a spinning drone. Riva didn't stop. She moved forward, slicing through two machines with clean, fast strikes. Her squad followed her lead. They reached the bunker and planted the charge. "Fall back!" she shouted, but just as they turned, the ground under her feet exploded. A hidden mine. The blast sent her flying. Fire and shrapnel tore through her legs. She hit the ground hard, unable to move. Smoke filled her lungs. Her vision blurred. She looked down. Her legs were gone. Panic tried to rise in her chest, but she forced it down. Warriors did not scream. Warriors did not cry. Footsteps ran past her. She heard the voices of her squad. "She's down. No time. Leave her. She's finished." Then silence. They left her. Just like that. It was the Corel way. Riva lay in the dirt, the pain sharp and hot. Her blood was thick and dark, pooling under her. She stared at the burning sky. She had always thought she would die in battle. But not like this, not alone. Corporal Lee sprinted through the smoke, his rifle in hand. His unit had been cut off after the charge blew early. He moved fast, scanning for survivors. His team was nearby, waiting for him to regroup. As he passed a pile of rubble, he saw something. A body. No, not just a body. It was a Corel warrior. Barely alive, covered in dust and blood. Her legs were missing. He paused. Most soldiers would have kept going. She wasn't human. She wasn't his responsibility. But Lee wasn't like most soldiers. He dropped to his knees beside her. "Hey," he said. "You alive?" Riva turned her head. Her eyes, silver and sharp, locked onto his. She expected him to leave. That was the way of things. "Go," she said weakly. "I am dead." "No, you're not," Lee replied. "Not yet. I have no legs," she said. "I can't move." "Then I'll carry you," he said, already pulling bandages from his pack. She stared at him like he was insane. "Why?" "Because you're not staying here," he said simply. Lee worked fast. He tied off the bleeding with shaky hands, making rough tourniquets with what he had. Riva winced but didn't cry out. She gritted her teeth and watched him. Her own people had left her without a word. This human stayed. He pulled her up onto his back. She was tall and heavier than she looked, but he didn't care. He started walking, one step at a time through the ash and fire. "I don't understand," Riva said quietly. "Why would you risk your life for me?" Lee breathed hard, sweat running down his face. "You're a soldier," he said. "And soldiers don't leave each other behind. At least we don't." She was quiet after that. The sound of distant machines echoed in the air. They had to move fast, but Lee was slowing down. Every step was harder than the last. Still, he kept going. After an hour, he found an old outpost wall, half broken, but enough for cover. He set her down gently and took a drink from his canteen. He offered her some. She hesitated, then took it. "Name's Lee," he said. "Corporal, 4th Infantry." "Riva," she replied. Commander. Kirel Bladysong Unit. Well, Riva, he said, giving a tired smile. You're not dying today. She looked at him. Even if I do, I will not forget this. Let's make sure you don't, Lee said, scanning the area. We'll rest here for the night. Then I'll find a way to call for help. Riva nodded slowly. Her body was broken, but her spirit was shifting. She had always believed humans were loud, reckless, and selfish, but this one had carried her through fire and never once thought of leaving her behind. No warrior left behind. The night on Kelthar Ridge was cold and silent. Smoke from the battle still hung in the air, but the sounds of fighting had faded. Under the broken sky, Corporal Lee sat near the wall of the ruined outpost, his rifle across his lap. Next to him, Riva lay on a blanket made from his jacket. Her wounds were wrapped, but she had lost a lot of blood. Her breathing was slow, and her eyes were half closed. Lee stayed awake, listening for enemy drones. His muscles ached, and his back was sore from carrying her, but he didn't complain. He had made a choice, and he was not going to leave her behind. Riva opened her eyes. You should sleep, she said in a low voice. Lee shook his head. Not while machines might be out there. You're foolish, she said. You risk your life for a dying soldier. You're not dying, he replied. Not while I'm here. She looked at him for a moment, then turned her eyes to the sky. My people believe that to be left behind is the end. If you are too weak to walk, you are already dead. That's not how we see things, Lee said. We don't leave anyone behind, even if we have to carry them. Riva closed her eyes again, trying to rest. But sleep didn't come easy. Morning came slowly. Pale sunlight broke through the clouds. Lee stood and stretched his stiff arms. He checked the small radio on his belt, still broken from the blast. No signal, he muttered. Riva looked up. What now? I saw a signal tower about 3 clicks east yesterday, he said. If we can reach it, we might be able to call for evac. Riva raised an eyebrow. You mean carry me again? He smiled. Unless you feel like walking? She gave him a small dry laugh. It was the first time he had heard anything close to humor from her. Lee built a sled from broken metal and pieces of old armor he found in the outpost. It wasn't perfect, but it could slide over the ground. He carefully helped Riva onto it and tied her in with straps. You sure about this? She asked. Nope, he said, but we don't have a choice. The landscape was rough, cracked ground, burned trees, broken metal from destroyed machines. Lee pulled the sled, step by step, gritting his teeth as he dragged it across rocks and hills. Riva watched him in silence for a long time. Then she spoke. Why are you really doing this, Lee? He didn't stop moving. I already told you. No, she said. That was your soldier answer. I want the truth. Lee paused. He wiped sweat from his forehead. Then he looked at her. Because I've seen too many people die alone. Good people. People who didn't deserve it. If I can stop that from happening to even one more person, I will. Riva looked away, thinking deeply. No one in her unit would have said something like that. They believed in strength, in silence, in leaving the weak behind. But this human, he believed in something else. Later that afternoon, they heard a sound, buzzing. Fast, getting louder. Drones, Lee whispered. He pushed the sled behind a burned vehicle and grabbed his rifle. A red light flashed through the smoke. A recon drone scanning the area. Lee held his breath. The drone hovered, scanning the ground. Riva reached for the blaster Lee had given her earlier, her fingers tight around the handle. Wait, he said softly. The drone passed, then paused. It turned, heading straight toward them. Lee jumped up and fired. The bullet hit the drone, but not before it sent a signal. They know we're here, Lee said, pulling Riva out of hiding. We have to move. He ran faster now, dragging the sled with all his strength. The signal tower was still far. Behind them, he could hear more buzzing, more drones coming. Riva raised the blaster and shot one out of the sky. "Two more," she shouted. Lee ducked as another drone fired. He rolled to the side, then took it out with a well-placed shot. Riva turned her head. "Keep going. Leave me. You'll move faster." "No chance," Lee said. "We started this together. We finish it together." Her eyes burned, not with anger, with something else, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Respect. They made it to a small cave just before nightfall. Lee pulled the sled inside and collapsed next to it, breathing hard. His hands were torn from the rope. His face was covered in dust. Riva looked at him. "You're hurt." "I'll live," he said, wincing. She looked down at her legs, or what was left of them. "I won't walk again." "We'll get you new ones," he said. "Not Coreltech," she whispered. "My people won't accept me now." "I'm broken." Lee sat up. "You're not broken. You're alive. And that's enough." She didn't answer, but she didn't look away. That night, she told him about her past. About growing up in a warrior caste, where pain was strength and mercy was weakness. Her first battle. Her first kill. How she had once thought humans were soft, undisciplined. Loud. "I thought your kind was weak," she said. "But you carry others when they fall," Lee smiled. "Maybe that's our strength," she nodded slowly. "Maybe it is." As they sat in the cave, watching the stars above the broken sky, something shifted between them. They were still soldiers from different worlds. But in that moment, they were also something else. Survivors. Allies. And maybe even friends. The long crawl, the next morning, was quiet. Too quiet. Lee woke up early, muscles aching and head heavy. He stretched his arms and looked at the sleeping figure beside him. Riva was still alive, still breathing. Her wounds looked stable, but her face was pale. The loss of blood had weakened her. Lee stepped out of the cave and checked the horizon. The signal tower was still far, maybe one full day's walk, if everything went well, but nothing had gone well so far. He walked back inside and knelt beside Riva. Time to move. She opened her eyes slowly. Still alive? Unfortunately. He joked. She gave a tired smile. "You humans. Always trying to be funny." He started preparing the sled again. The ropes were worn, but still holding. He tightened the straps and helped Riva onto the sled. "I'll try not to be too heavy today," she said. "Too late," he grunted, pulling the sled with both hands. The landscape had changed. The burned battlefield was behind them now. Ahead lay cracked black stone, sharp and dry. The heat was worse today, and the air smelled of oil and smoke. Lee dragged the sled with effort, his boots kicking up dust with every step. Riva stayed quiet most of the time. She watched the land around them, alert. Her hand stayed close to the blaster on her side. After an hour of walking, she broke the silence. "Why do you keep fighting?" she asked. Lee didn't stop. "Because if we don't, they win." "The machines?" He nodded. "They don't care who we are. Human, Kirel, it's all the same to them. If we don't fight, there won't be a future." Riva thought for a moment. "You believe in something bigger than yourself." Lee laughed dryly. "Don't sound so surprised." "I'm not," she said. "I just didn't expect it, from a human." As they moved forward, a strange sound echoed through the air. Not drones this time, something heavier. "Do you hear that?" Riva asked. Lee stopped and listened. A deep, slow thudding sound, like something large moving across metal. Then he saw it, a machine walker. It looked like a spider, but with steel legs and a cannon mounted on top. It was scanning the area, searching. Lee pulled the sled into a ditch and crouched low. "Don't move," he whispered. The machine passed by, slow and deadly. Its red eyes swept over the rocks. Riva gripped her blaster, ready to fire. Lee touched her hand. No, not yet. After a tense minute, the walker moved on. Heading toward the ridge, they waited in silence. Only when the sound faded did Lee move. Again, hours passed. The sun climbed high, and Lee's strength began to fade. His arms burned. His breath was short. But he kept moving, step by step. Pulling the sled. At one point, he stumbled and fell to his knees. Riva called out, "Lee!" He waved her off. "I'm fine," he said, even though he wasn't. She stared at him. "You'll kill yourself like this." "I've carried heavier things than you," he joked, forcing a smile. But the truth was clear. He was reaching his limit. Around midday, they found a crashed transport ship in a crater. It was half buried in the dirt, but the back was open. "Let's check it out," Lee said. He dragged the sled inside. The ship was dark, but cooler than the outside. Inside, they found emergency supplies, bandages, a water pack, a power cell. No radio, but still useful. Lee helped Riva drink from the water pack. "You okay?" She nodded. "Better than you." He sat down next to her, finally resting his arms. She looked at him for a long time. Then she said something he didn't expect. "You are more warrior than any Corel I've ever met." He laughed softly. "That means a lot coming from you." "I'm serious," she said. "You fight with your heart, not just your body." Lee looked down. "You helped me too, that drone back there." "I didn't see it." "If you hadn't fired, I'd be dead," Riva shrugged. "Maybe I'm finally learning from humans." They rested for an hour before moving on. Lee used the power cell to charge his broken radio, hoping to get a signal. Still nothing. As they neared the signal tower, the ground began to shift. Sand turned into cracked glass. Strange blue rocks stuck out of the ground like teeth. "This place is wrong," Riva said. "I don't like it either," Lee replied. Suddenly, a sound, then a flash of movement. Ambush. Machine scouts burst from the rocks, their metal arms raised. One fired. The sled was hit and flipped. Riva rolled to the side, groaning. Lee returned fire, shouting, "Stay down!" He ducked behind a boulder, shooting carefully. One drone exploded. Another rushed him, but Riva shot it in the side. Lee grabbed a grenade from his vest and threw it. The explosion cleared the last two drones. Silence followed. Lee ran to Riva. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she said, though she was clearly in pain. The sled was ruined. They couldn't use it anymore. Lee looked at the broken metal. Then, at the signal tower, still a half-mile away, he turned to Riva. "No more sled. I'll carry you again." "You can't," she said. "You're too tired." He didn't answer. He just bent down and picked her up, one arm under her back, the other under her knees. She looked up at him, surprised. "You're insane," she whispered. "Maybe," he said. "But I'm not leaving you." He walked slowly, step by step, toward the signal tower. His body shook from exhaustion. His lips were dry. His knees felt weak, but he didn't stop. Riva rested her head on his shoulder. Her voice was soft. "If we survive this, I'll never forget what you've done." "You'd better not," he said, breathing hard. As they reached the edge of the tower's base, Lee finally collapsed to his knees. "We made it," he gasped. Riva looked up at the structure. "Can you get the beacon working?" Lee nodded. "I'll try." He pulled out the power cell and connected it to the tower's console. Sparks flew, then lights blinked on. He hit the emergency signal button. A loud pulse echoed into the sky. Riva closed her eyes. "Now, we wait." Lee sat beside her, arm resting on his knee. He smiled weakly. "We wait together." Fight for the signal. The signal tower stood tall and silent. Its metal frame buzzed with energy now that Lee had activated the emergency beacon. Above them, a blue light blinked slowly into the sky. It was a call for help, loud enough to reach any ship passing nearby. Lee sat beside Riva, breathing hard, soaked in sweat. His arms were numb and his legs trembled. But in his heart, there was a small flame of hope. "They'll come," he whispered. "Somebody will hear the signal." Riva nodded slowly. "Let's hope they come soon." For a short while, the silence around the tower gave them a moment to rest. Lee shared the last of the water pack with Riva, carefully holding it to her lips. Her skin was cold, and her hands shook as she drank. Then, out of nowhere, a sharp mechanical screech cut through the air. Lee stood up at once. His eyes scanned the horizon. The sky darkened as shadows moved in the distance. Metallic shapes appeared over the ridge, spider-like drones, four-legged crawlers, and something bigger behind them. "They followed us," Riva said, gripping her blaster. Lee picked up his rifle. "They don't want anyone sending signals." The machines charged forward, silent but deadly. Lee ran to the tower's defense terminal. He activated the old turret system on the outer wall, two large guns on spinning platforms. They powered up with a low hum. Riva lay on the ground, blaster ready. Her aim was still sharp, even without legs. The first wave of drones came fast. Lee fired from behind a metal crate, while the turrets blasted holes in the ground, destroying anything that came too close. But there were too many. "We're surrounded." Lee shouted, "I can still shoot." Riva called back, blasting one crawler right in the center, making it explode. Lee moved to her side, covering her as she reloaded. "These things just keep coming," he said. "They must know someone heard." "The signal," Riva replied. "They want to stop the rescue." Another explosion shook the tower's base. One of the turrets blew up in flames. Hit by a rocket, Lee cursed and turned his rifle toward the larger figure behind the drones. A machine commander. It was massive, walking on two legs like a giant steel skeleton. Its red eyes glowed with hate. "That one's in charge," Lee said. "If we take it down, maybe the rest will fall back." Riva nodded. "Then we take it down." Lee ran across the field, dodging bullets, reaching the broken turret's wreckage. Inside, he found a heavy rocket launcher still attached. He pulled it free, loaded a shell, and aimed. The commander saw him. It raised its arm, charging a plasma shot. Riva screamed, "Now!" Lee fired. The rocket flew straight and true, hitting the commander in the chest. The machine exploded in a flash of fire and metal, collapsing in a heap of smoke. The smaller drones paused. Then, without their leader, they began to scatter. The field went quiet again. Lee dropped the launcher and ran back to Riva. She was bleeding. A small cut on her side from a piece of shrapnel. "Are you okay?" "I'll live," she said. "I've had worse." He laughed, even through the pain. "Of course you have." She looked up at him. "You're not just a soldier. You're something else." He raised an eyebrow. "A stubborn fool?" "No," she said. "A real warrior." Minutes passed. Then a sound filled the sky. A deep hum. Lee stood and looked up. A dropship appeared through the clouds, lights flashing. It was human. It circled once, then lowered itself near the tower. Riva watched in silence as soldiers rushed out, shouting orders, pointing weapons, securing the area. A medic ran to Lee. "You the one who sent the signal?" Lee nodded. "Yeah, we've got a wounded soldier, Kirel." The medic looked confused. "You brought an alien?" "She's one of us," Lee said firmly. "She fought. She bled. She stayed." The medic didn't argue. He and another soldier carefully lifted Riva onto a stretcher. She winced but didn't cry out. As they loaded her into the ship, she looked at Lee. "Will your people accept me?" "They will," he said, "or they'll deal with me." Inside the dropship, Riva was given proper treatment. Her wounds were cleaned, her bleeding stopped, and painkillers helped her rest. Lee sat beside her, helmet in his lap. For once, he allowed himself to relax. "We're safe now," he said quietly. Riva turned her head. "Safe, but changed," he nodded. "War changes everyone. But maybe it also brings people together. She closed her eyes. Maybe, if more humans are like you, maybe we can fight side by side. For real, Lee smiled. We already are. As the dropship rose into the sky, leaving behind the broken battlefield, 2 soldiers, 1 human, 1 alien lay side by side, not enemies, not strangers, but survivors of something greater than war. They had saved each other, and in doing so, maybe, just maybe, they had saved a future where no one, human or alien, would ever be left behind again. More than survival, 2 weeks later, the human medical ship floated in orbit above a peaceful moon. Inside its bright white halls, injured soldiers recovered from the long and bloody war. Some had scars, some had missing limbs, but all of them had survived something terrible. In room 17B, Riva lay in a special bed. The walls around her were covered in soft lights and smooth metal. Machines hummed quietly. Her body had changed. She now had new legs. Artificial, silver-colored, made from advanced human tech. They weren't perfect yet, but they worked. She stared at her feet, trying to move the toes. Slowly, carefully. They responded. The door slid open. Lee walked in. He was clean now, in fresh military uniform. No dirt, no blood. But a long scar ran across his forehead, a reminder of the fight. He grinned. Look at you. Standing almost. She gave him a tired smile. They say I'll walk in a week. That's fast. You humans build strange, but powerful things. We try, he said, pulling a chair beside her. For a while they sat in silence. Then Riva asked, what happened to the tower? Secured. The machines stopped coming. Our fleets pushed them back from the region. And the war? Still going, he said, sighing. But we won that battle. She nodded. One battle at a time. Lee looked at her carefully. What happens to you now? She hesitated. The Corel army marked me as lost. Probably think I'm dead. Will they take you back? I don't know, maybe, but I'm not sure I want to go back. Lee raised an eyebrow. Why? She looked out the window. Because when I was dying, it wasn't my people who came for me. It was you. He was quiet for a moment. You would have done the same. I'm not so sure, she said. But I want to be that kind of soldier now. The next day, a human general came to speak with Riva. You fought beside one of our best Marines, the general said. We've seen the reports. We've seen the video from the signal tower. Riva nodded. We don't forget things like that, the general continued. If you want, we can offer you a position, not as an outsider, but as one of us. Riva looked shocked. You'd let an alien fight for your army? The general smiled. You're not just an alien. You're a soldier. And you earned it. Lee stood beside her, proud but silent. Riva looked at him. Then back at the general. Yes, she said. I accept. Training with artificial legs wasn't easy. At first, Riva fell often. Her steps were uneven. Her balance was off. But she never gave up. She trained every morning and every night, sometimes alone, sometimes with Lee helping her. One evening, as she limped along the track, Lee walked beside her. Remember when I carried you across the desert? He asked. I remember every step, she replied. He chuckled. Now look at you, carrying yourself. Not just myself, she said. Soon I'll carry others too. Weeks turned into months. Riva became stronger than ever. Her new legs were upgraded, faster, sharper, made for combat. She learned human tactics, trained with human weapons, and earned respect from every soldier in her squad. She wasn't just accepted. She was trusted. Her call sign became Phoenix, the soldier who rose from the ashes. Then one day, the alarm rang, a distress call from a remote colony. A machine army had returned, stronger, smarter, faster. Lee and Riva were assigned to the same team, just like before. They suited up, side by side. You ready? Lee asked, tightening his armor. Riva smiled. You kidding? I've been waiting for this. They dropped from orbit, their ship burning through the atmosphere, heading toward a new battlefield. But this time, Riva wasn't being rescued. She was leading the charge. The fight was brutal. Buildings burned, and machines swarmed the ground like insects. But Riva's team moved with perfect skill. She shot, dodged, commanded, always thinking, always watching. Lee followed her lead, covering her back as they pushed through the enemy line. At one point, a machine aimed for a wounded human soldier. Riva saw it first. She jumped in front, took the shot to her arm, and blasted the drone before it could kill the soldier. The young man looked up in shock. You saved me. Riva smiled through the pain. No one gets left behind. When the mission ended, the human base cheered, not just for the victory, but for the alien who fought like one of their own. Back aboard the ship, Riva sat with Lee once more. We've come a long way, she said. He nodded. You've come even farther. She looked at him. I'm not just fighting for survival anymore. He smiled. No, you're fighting for something bigger. She reached out, placing her hand over his. Thank you, Lee, she said softly. For carrying me, for believing in me, for not leaving me behind. He looked into her eyes. You carried me too, in ways I can't explain. They sat there hand in hand, warriors from different worlds, not as strangers, not as enemies, but as something more. The end.